Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a moment that literally defined a career, a nation, and, honestly, the entire sport of football. But more than that, we're exploring a split second that sparked one of the most massive, enduring ethical debates in athletic history. We are talking, of course, about the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal between Argentina and England and Diego Maradona's absolutely legendary Hand of God.
So, what happens when the greatest crime in sports is credited to God? It's a fascinating ethical dilemma, right? We're going to unpack this singular, highly controversial event through four totally distinct, clashing perspectives. We'll look at the perpetrator's cultural justification, the victim's lingering resentment, the referee's human limitations, and we'll even zoom all the way out to academic philosophy. Let's get into it.
Section 1, the infamous 51st minute. Okay, let's dive right into this.
To truly understand the ethics at play here, we first have to do a microscopic breakdown of the incident itself, exactly as it unfolded on the pitch. So the match begins with a super tense, scoreless first half. Then, right at the 51-minute mark, Maradona initiates this brilliant play. He passes the ball to his teammate Jorge Valdano and darts straight toward the penalty box. At 51 minutes and 30 seconds, absolute chaos ensues. The ball skips off Valdano's foot, and English midfielder Steve Hodge wildly hooks it back into his own penalty area, sending it soaring into the Mexico City sky. And then, at exactly 52 minutes, the unthinkable happens. The English goalkeeper, Peter Shilton, comes out to claim it. Now, Shilton has every advantage here, right? He can legally use his hands, and he's nearly 8 inches taller than Maradona. But as they go up for the ball, Maradona jumps and literally punches the ball past Shilton into the net. It was this split-second, chaotic scramble inside the Azteca Stadium that changed football history forever.
Now, immediately after the match, television replays and photographs unequivocally prove that Maradona had in fact used his hand. But instead of a confession or, an apology, Maradona gave us this iconic, almost unbelievable quote. He said it was, "a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God." By framing it exactly this way, Maradona instantly sacralized a literal sporting violation. He transformed a blatant foul into an act of divine intervention, weaving this massive myth that totally overshadowed the cheating itself.
Section 2. Cunning, Revenge, or Cheating. Let's take a look at the cultural side of this.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how an illegal goal could be so widely celebrated. Well, it ties directly into a specific cultural concept known as viveza criolla. This roughly translates to native cunning. It's a philosophy commonly associated with South America that more or less justifies the path taken to succeed, even if it's technically unfair or breaks the rules. Viewed through this specific lens, Maradona wasn't being malicious at all. He was demonstrating a celebrated form of cleverness. He successfully outsmarted a rigid system and got away with the whole shebang.
But there is another really heavy layer here, and that's the geopolitical backdrop. Just 4 years prior to this match, Argentina and the UK fought the Falklands War. And the reality for Argentines back home was incredibly grim. Their military basically propagandized that they were winning, but as Maradona later recounted, England was actually winning 20-0. It was a devastating national trauma. So out there on the football pitch, Maradona explicitly stated that scoring this illegal goal actually gave him a nice feeling. It was, in his exact words, a symbolic revenge against the English. So we're looking at a profound clash, where the black and white rules of sport violently collide with the gray, emotional reality of an international conflict.
Section 3. The victim's lingering resentment.
So, we've seen the perpetrator's justification, but what about the victim's reality? Well, Peter Shilton said, "He didn't outjump me, he cheated." This is his blunt, totally unwavering assessment of the foul. And the contrast here is just incredibly stark. Where Maradona conjures up these grand images of divine framing and cultural cunning, England's legendary goalkeeper zeroes in on a straightforward, unrepentant breach of the rules.
Shilton held a very rigid adherence to sportsmanship. He recalled that his stomach literally dropped when he realized someone was blatantly cheating in such a massive, high-stakes match. He truly believes the whole England team suffered unjustly because of that deception. And because Maradona never showed any genuine remorse or gave an apology, Shilton to this day absolutely refuses to shake hands with him. He freely admits Maradona is the greatest player in history, sure, but he has zero respect for him as a sportsman. That lack of remorse left a bitter, bitter resentment that continues to echo decades later.
Section 4. The referee's blind spot. Let's talk about the guy caught in the middle.
Think about it. If one player is cheating and another is furiously protesting, where is the arbiter of the game? Well, in 1986, enforcement was purely human. Tunisian referee Ali bin Nasser quite simply couldn't see the foul from his angle.
He consulted his linesman, who confirmed the goal, and under strict FIFA instructions, bin Nasser was obliged to award it. He even told the protesting English players to just focus on the game. Contrast that with modern ethics and the use of VAR, or video assistant referee. Today, every single angle is scrutinized. Even Maradona himself cheerfully admitted years later that with modern technology, his famous goal would have never stood. It really highlights how sports ethics and the whole concept of fair play are inherently tied to the technological limitations of their era.
Section 5, the philosophy of the hand. Let's move to and see how this builds, because it gets pretty deep.
We are now zooming all the way out from the grass of the pitch, directly into the realm of academic philosophy. Yes, you heard that right. This goal is so famous it actually has academic papers written about it. The Journal of the Philosophy of Sport actually published a deep exploration into the metaphysical implications of Maradona's goal. It sounds wild, I know, but this helps ground our exploration into how sport and religion interact philosophically when someone literally calls their own deception the hand of God.
To really understand this academic perspective, we need to look at a concept called hierophany. It is defined as the manifestation of the sacred, or the absolute other, appearing in the profane objects and events of ordinary, everyday experience. This perfectly breaks down how a purely profane act, an illegal handball on a muddy soccer field, could paradoxically be viewed by millions of fans as a sacred, almost religious manifestation.
So the crucial point here is this concept of the ontological gap. Philosophers argue that the divine fundamentally represents absolute truth and infinite goodness. Sport, however, is a human invention, and it's filled with fouls, errors, and deception, which means it can only ever imperfectly replicate those divine ideals. So despite Maradona stamping his goal with that hand of God label, scholars argue that true divine attributes like absolute truth are fundamentally incompatible with an act of cheating. Basically, you just can't have divine truth in a lie.
Section 6. A legacy of unfair play.
This single event in 1986 didn't just stay in 1986. No way. It birthed a lingering legacy of controversial handballs in global soccer. Maradona's specific brand of viveza criolla has echoed through decades of world football. Check this out. In 1990, Maradona himself used his hand again, this time to clear a ball against the Soviet Union without the referee noticing. In 2007, his Argentine successor, Lionel Messi, scored a diving handball against Espanyol. In 2009, Thierry Henry used his hand to eliminate Ireland, an event the media scathingly dubbed the Hand of Frog. In 2010, Luis Suarez intentionally stopped a Ghanaian goal with his hands, proudly calling it the Hand of God 2.0. And even as recently as 2020, Joshua Grauman scored an unnoticed handball in the AFC Cup. The shadow of Maradona's 51st-minute decision is just remarkably long.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But I want to leave you with this final, lingering ethical question. Is the hand of God a symbol of ultimate sporting genius, or is it the ultimate failure of fair play? Does the brilliance of the narrative and the cultural context actually excuse the breaking of the rules? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you watch a match and the referee blows the whistle. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the fascinating ethics behind this legendary moment, and I will catch you in the next explainer.